vaccination yet. And this Dr. Cadlick, oh my goodness, he goes back to Fort Detrick, to the anthrax day. And he is the one that actually, he says, it is said that he actually personally injected 800 of our armed forces. And that is one of the things that we have found later on that caused the Middle East syndrome. And that was a side effect that later showed up.
Doctor, there's so many questions that you're raising, and we always appreciate your time. We look forward to having you back on, and we need to educate Americans as to what is happening here, and we need to delve deeper into why certain things are being pushed and why others are not. And I think a lot of what you're talking about is money, and that's certainly a big factor. Thank you, Doctor. Thanks to all of our Great America's Voice viewers. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume.
Strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
So when you mention the word decouple, it's an interesting word. So we lose billions of dollars, and if we didn't do business with them, we wouldn't lose billions of dollars. It's called decoupling, so you'll start thinking about it. You'll start thinking. They take our money and they spend it on building airplanes and building ships and building rockets and missiles. And Biden has been just a pawn for them. He's been so easy, they dream about Biden. There was a report today that they hope that Joe Biden becomes president. If Joe Biden becomes president, China will own the United States, and every other country will be smiling also. They'll be smiling. When reports come out that certain countries don't really like me too much, that's not because of my personality, although it could be that also, frankly. It's because of the fact that I've been very tough on countries that have been ripping us off for so many years. Under my administration, we will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world, and we'll end our reliance on China once and for all. Whether it's decoupling or putting in massive tariffs like I've been doing already, we're going to end our reliance on China because we can't rely on China. And I don't want them building a military like they're building right now, and they're using our money to build it. We'll manufacture our critical medical supplies in the United States. We'll create Made in America tax credits and bring our jobs back from China to the United States, and we'll impose tariffs on companies that desert America to create jobs in China and other countries. If they can't do it here, then let them pay a big tax to build it someplace else and send it into our country. We'll prohibit federal contracts from companies that outsource to China, and we'll hold China accountable for allowing the virus to spread around the world. Now you can understand why China would much rather see Sleepy Joe than Donald Trump.
Well, welcome to War Room Pandemic, episode 375. It is, what is it, Tuesday, September the 8th, the year of our Lord 2020, broadcasting live here from Capitol Hill. Raheem Kassam, Jack Maxey. Joining us down the line is Stephen K. Bannon. Steve.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in the greatest city in the world. I guess it's still the greatest city. It's just an empty city. I've never seen New York City like this. And, the Tuesday after Labor Day is normally the biggest day, one of the biggest days of the year, people getting back to work. But the city's virtually empty. And I think this goes to the depth of this pandemic and what people are doing about it. So we'll get to more of that later. But I got to tell you, Raheem and Jack, over the weekend we had the special. We had Milesguo for 2 hours. And then we had Riding the Dragon the film from Glenn Beck and the Blaze TV guys, Peter Schweitzer, also Matthew Taylor, who will join us later in the show. And I got such a tremendous audience feedback all weekend. People were telling me in Labor Day Monday what a big impact that had about their thinking about China, thinking about the CCP virus, all of it. And then the president yesterday in this impromptu press conference he gave from the North Portico, which is pretty unusual. I don't remember anything ever being done out there like that. Really laid down almost for an hour, going through his appreciation for working men and women throughout the country, what's been done on the economy, jobs coming back. But then, guys, just really did a full-on beatdown on Beijing Biden, on China Joe. So it's he really went after the Democratic candidate, and we've yet to really hear a response. The New York Times did this piece on I think it was in Sunday's paper about Joe Biden's journey when it comes to China. And it was a total lightweight piece. It's pretty embarrassing when the Times, which is going to do the definitive story about Biden and China, really doesn't get into any of the details about the 25 hours that he spent one-on-one that he bragged about at the Council on Foreign Relations. It didn't mention Hunter and Hunter's financial dealings with China at all. And this huge, I think it was a 5,000 or 7,000 word piece, is about how Joe Biden's becoming much more of a hawk, right? Or being forced to become a hawk, given the very hawkish nature of President Trump's administration and taking on the Chinese Communist Party and holding them accountable. And for some super hawks, maybe even not holding them accountable enough. But President Trump hit the hot word, which is decouple. The Chinese Communist Party's already decided to decouple with us on technology. They made that decision in 2019 when they walked away from the Lighthizer deal. But President Trump's bringing back up about decoupling financially. That means breaking the convertibility of the Hong Kong dollar into dollars. It means giving them less access to the U.S. dollar. It means sanctioning their banks, sanctioning senior members of the cadre. It really means going out in full economic war. Decoupling right now cuts to the heart, sends a chill to Beijing. And those are very powerful words. And if you follow this, the unrestricted warfare of the Chinese Communist Party versus the United States, whether it's in the CCP virus, whether it's on technology, whether it's in the South China Sea, whether it's on the border up in Chinese-occupied Tibet, or particularly the economic warfare, President Trump threw down hard. And Raheem and Jack, you see where the New York Times is going to have Biden's back on this thing. I mean, we had the film, we premiered it for the U.S., I think it was, for everybody on AVN in Newsmax and John Frederick Radio Network on Saturday at 11 and Monday again at 11, and kind of played again. The demand was so strong. This goes into the details of Hunter Biden and the Biden's family's financial relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, right? And the New York Times does a 7,000-word story. It doesn't mention it one time. Talks about, how Joe Biden is now going to be much more engaged, and kind of dismiss President Trump of being all over the map. So you see that the mainstream media is they're very afraid that President Trump will focus on China as a wedge issue here that could really deliver the presidency for him. They're petrified of that, and they're trying to make Joe Biden out to be a hawk. Guys, thoughts, observations?
Well, Steve, I agree 100% that they're going to cover for him, but I think that the president has to start taking some strong moves. One of the things that I think he can do immediately that would have a resounding effect on this is he should declare our grain a strategic asset. China is about to go to its knees when it comes to grain. They've got another typhoon that just blew through their northeast, their largest corn growing area, Typhoon Haishan. And they're going to need 25 million tons next year of corn just to meet their needs. So, you can't fight on an empty belly, Steve. And I think it's high time that we start looking at what are our strategic assets that we can use to control the outcome in China. My opinion.
Look, we have. Remember, we're the channel that brings together. We're the show that brings together the deplorables and Lao Beijing. Lao Beijing being old 100-years and Chinese the deplorables. The great question before us is the freedom of the Chinese people. We're pro-Chinese people. We're pro-China. We're anti-CCP. So, Jack, I think in regards to that, and you've done a magnificent job of not just covering the floods, you've done a tremendous job of giving the world a heads up, I think, on this potential famine that's there. How do you do that? I understand we can use the strategic assets, the dollar. We can use our financial assets. We can stop technology. We ought to be shutting down TikTok. I mean, Raheem, you guys have done an incredible job about all of these apps that should be shut down right away. But on the grain situation, how do we thread that needle, understanding the fact that because of the incompetence of the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese people are going to have to be fed, and it's the West that's going to do that. How do you thread that needle?
Well, my theory is you make sure that the Chinese people know who's feeding them. I think that we have to make clear to Lao Beijing that the Chinese Communist Party, Chairman Xi particularly, have failed in their stated mission from 1949 to be able to feed the Chinese people. Now, this is because of corruption, other failures. But the fact of the matter is, in 1972, we bailed out the Communist Party by sending them grain and giving an opportunity for them to declare that they had saved their people on the back of the American farmer. I don't think that we should do that again. And if there's going to be famine around the world, there's going to be famine in friendly places like Africa and Central America, and I think we should look after them first. Secondly, when you talk about the trillions of dollars that have been spent dealing with this CCP virus unleashed upon the world by the Communist Chinese, we could buy $200 billion of U.S. corn and dump it in the South China Sea, and it would be more effective than most of the things that we're doing to counter the aggression of the Communist Chinese, in my opinion.
So, Raheem, to that point, you talk about action, action, action. You know, the rhetoric has gotten pretty heated, and the president, I think, has done a good job of framing the difference of Joe Biden. I mean, you know, we open up the show with, if Joe Biden's elected, the president says China's going to own us. What other action should he be taking, though, today to kind of back up? The rhetoric's gotten pretty heated. How do you back that up with action?
Well, I just want to bring it back to something as well that you mentioned, which is those 25 hours of private meetings that Biden had with Xi, and he boasted about it quite openly in the Council of Foreign Relations event that he did, the same event where he, boasted about getting the prosecutor fired in Ukraine. And in May this year, Steve, we actually we put in a Freedom of Information request into the State Department to ask for details about those meetings. We wanted to know where, when, who was there, what was discussed, because in the video, Biden says that it was the State Department that reminded him about all of those meetings. So, okay, we figured the State Department will have the details. Steve, they came back to us in April, a month after our request. They came back to us and they said, we're processing your request. You should hear back from us by April 2023.
Is this a fact that we need Tom Fitton to help you write FOIA requests, or is this just a blow off by what you refer to as the deep state that does not want Raheem Kassam in Joe Biden's emails and in his the summary of his discussions?
It's actually a good question, because originally they told us, look, your request is so broad, it'll take us 3 years to figure it out. If you could narrow your request down, we might be able to do it sooner. So we narrowed the request down. We narrowed it down significantly by years, in fact, the space of time that needed to be studied and the scope of the request. And instead of coming back to us, they actually just ignored the follow-up, that we have not received a response at all this time.
Why is the the Trump campaign not forcing, like they've smoked Joe out of his cave, from Jill putting on his bib and letting him do his feeding him and then letting him do his Proof of Life podcast. They've kind of forced him out to the hustings, although some of those events yesterday with like 5 or 6 people I wouldn't really consider Labor Day events. But why is the Trump campaign not forcing him to come forward with some sort of summary of what he and she talked about? I mean, he's bragging, I think it was 23, 25 hours of one-on-one meetings. We haven't seen any summary of those. I think we checked. There's no readouts of that. Why are they not demanding, and why is this not becoming a bigger campaign issue? That, President Trump says yesterday, if Joe Biden wins, China will own the United States because they own Joe Biden. The film over the weekend, Riding the Dragon, by Peter Schweitzer and Glenn Beck and the team, really lays it out, the financial interconnections between the Chinese Communist Party and the Biden family. Why is the campaign not making a big enough deal about the 25 hours, what went on? And also, it's not a steady drumbeat every day. on what's the Biden's financial relationships with the greatest enemy of mankind, the Chinese Communist Party.
Right.
Steve, let's not forget that, remember when Trump had about 3 minutes alone with Putin in Helsinki, it launched an entire investigation about his collusion with an enemy.
Yeah.
I think it's high time that maybe even a Senate committee, roll that tape that he does at the Council on Foreign Relations and then say, we want to have an investigation as to what these private conversations were about.
Well,
do that today.
And it is especially important because this past weekend, CGTN, the state-operated Chinese news network, CGTN literally publishes an article, again, this is like its 15th on this topic, but literally publishes another article saying that Biden is on a parallel with Beijing, that his foreign policy is in parallel. They use the word parallel with Beijing. Steve, we've got to go to a break here. Hashtag War in Pandemic for all the comments in the live feed as well. Want to get your thoughts, your feedback. Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon. Live episode 375 of War Room Pandemic. We'll be right back with more of this and more on the Transition Integrity Project, or as I'm calling it, the Steal, right after this break.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
I sent your new prescription to the pharmacy. Any idea how much it will cost? You have a choice. Insurance or GoodRx? I have insurance. Insurance is not what it used to be. People struggle to get their prescriptions covered, and prices keep rising. I recommend GoodRx. You get free coupons to save on your prescriptions. Compare prices to find the best discounts.
GoodRx. Smart.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You look at the Atlantic article, you look at what Donald Trump said, accusing generals and admirals of basically being murderers for war profit. And you look at Kenosha and his refusal to condemn vigilantism by a 17-year-old kid from out of state running around with an AR-15 killing 2 people. It just seems, like John Heilman said, that Donald Trump can never get momentum because he is constantly doing things that remind these suburban voters that usually vote Republican that this guy is not one of them, that he is a frightening presence in the White House, and they want stability.
Well, welcome back to War Room Pandemic on America's Voice on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Later on Newsmax and blown through the CCP's firewall by G News and GTV. I'm Raheem Kassam here in the War Room with Jack Maxey, and joining us down the line, Stephen K. Bannon. Steve?
You know, I really want to thank the audience. By the way, I promised tomorrow the team here is to try to get a great shot of me. We had it, but got a little blown up by the sunlight. We're on location for the next, at least the next week. And people should know that New York City, which is the vibrant engine that drives a lot of the American economy, is completely looks like Labor Day weekend, which was dead. It's pretty stunning, the slowness in the recovery. I know in Washington D.C., Raheem and Jack, it's also been like complete zombie land. Now Congress is not in; they're not back for I think another week. But it's these major cities in the East. It's just not clicking, and eventually this has to have a massive, massive financial and economic impact. So I got to tell you, hang on to this. I want to go back to they talk about stability. Raheem, you had this is what they never bring up on Morning Joe. The stability, this phony or faux stability they talk about, where they're really instigating this violence, right, by looking the other way and exacerbating it, right, by their comments. Also, they're totally in bed with our enemies, and they're really in bed. You had a piece up on National Pulse, I think, the other day, Raheem, that I found fascinating. Besides all the mainstream media, just enthralled with Senator Harris's husband, you actually did some investigative reporting. And guess what? Once again, just like the Biden family on the movie Riding the Dragon, in up to their neck with the Chinese Communist Party financially, what did you find in your investigation of Kamala Harris's husband?
Right. Yeah, Steve, then this story has just been going absolutely wild over the weekend. People really are interested in who Douglas Emhoff would be beholden to. This is Kamala Harris's husband, who served as a partner in DLA Piper, a multinational law firm's intellectual property and technology practice. And DLA Piper boasts itself of having, quote, long established and embedded China desks in both the U.S. and Europe. And they, of course, consult with and for the Chinese Communist Party. Their China practice has received prestigious awards from China Business Law Journal, China Law and Practice. And they actually employ former Chinese Communist Party officials as well within their China desks to ostensibly to assist them to do business with China. There's a plethora of names that we can go through on the show, and Natalie Winters actually reported a lot of this out. But it's very clear that DLA Piper itself brags about working as an advisor to government-owned companies, the Chinese Communist Party themselves, China Eastern Airlines, China Southern Airlines, the China merchant groups. And so when you look at all of this and take a step back from all of this, Kamala Harris is just another one of these people that has the Damoclean sword of the Chinese Communist Party constantly hang over her necks. And you think back to 2016, when everybody suddenly learned the word compromat. You've got to wonder what between DLA Piper, between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, what the Chinese Communist Party has in leverage over these politicians. And I know Joe Biden is giving it the big one, going out on his Twitter late last night and tweeting about how the president's weak on China. I have to reiterate this. CGTN boasted this weekend in an article called China's Place in a Biden Presidency, said, quote, "It is against this backdrop that Biden's multilateral worldview runs parallel to Beijing's demonstrated pursuit for global cooperation and affording new openings for foreign policy convergence." Steve?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is, I think the Trump campaign needs a China week. And the White House, I think, needs a China week. They need to focus on this issue. This was a big issue in 2016. A lot of these stories are talking about, President Trump, having a tough time getting traction. One of the things we got traction on 16 that's even worse today is the Chinese Communist Party and their President Trump has done, I think, a great job of confronting it, but they are absolutely bound and determined to become a global hegemon. There's no doubt about it. In the second hour of the show, we're going to actually show people in the new federal state of China, the whistleblower movement, Milesguo, and others that are fighting back culturally, that are running the same playbook that the United States ran against the Soviet Union in the 70s, about culture, about music, about fashion, about all of that. They're taking a whole other aspect of this war against the Chinese Communist Party. But I got to tell you, Raheem, as much as I love the National Pulse, I don't know why it takes the National Pulse for us to take the National Pulse in the first week of September to get to this and make this. Natalie and Raheem and the team over there is amazing to expose this. This should be done day one. It should be hammered over and over and over again. What are these people's relationship with an existential threat to the United States of America? And it's got to be laid out very crisply. Let's go to, I know we want to get to the transition, integrity project. This is really their coup to steal the election from President Trump. And let's be blunt. We have what we call 133 days in a wake-up. We used to measure it by Election Day. But Election Day is just going to be one signpost along this journey. This journey is not going to end till at least, I think, the day before the inauguration on 20th of January in 2021. So we've got, 4 or 5 months of a grind in front of us. I wouldn't want to have do it with anybody else than the people on our side of the football. But the deplorables have got to snap too. What Morning Joe's talking about there when that piece comes in, Raheem, is how President Trump is down 4 or 5 points in Wisconsin, 4 or 5 points or 6 points in Michigan. They're looking at these battleground states. Politico this morning, I think, did a pretty good piece about the 8 states that are going to matter here. They're really where the election is going to be won or lost. But Raheem, your reporting and Revolver and other people's on this transition project really gets. I did John Fredericks earlier. People now are awakening to the fact that something's going on here. Remember, this is not a conspiracy. This is not conspiracy theory. The people on the other side are very open about what they're doing. They're bringing in the major papers. They're bringing in Facebook. Zuckerberg just talked last night on HBO Axios. What was it, a week after Hawkfish talked? You had Washington Post has been doing op-eds. All the big papers, the progressive sources, all the progressive websites, The Nation. So this is they've put this report out and they're trying to socialize it. And I can't recommend enough that everybody in our audience has to go to our site and to the National Pulse site. Raheem, I think you still have up your annotated version of the 20-page report from the Transition Integrity Project. People must read that. There's going to be some analysis that's going to be done later in this week by a bigger group. We're going to share that with you guys when we get it. But there's a lot of people going through this in great amount of detail, and people are now really running to running to volunteer to become election officials, poll watchers, get out to vote, work phone banks. This is going to be, we got to put our shoulder to the wheel here. This is going to be the tough grind of politics.
Yeah, and this is absolutely no joke, Steve, as you say, no conspiracy, and certainly no joke. It's very clear when you look at the reporting. What I'm holding up here, ladies and gentlemen, is 2 separate reports, 10 days apart. This is from the New Yorker for the radio audience. This is from I'm holding up the New Yorker article and the Hill article, 10 days apart, and they start with exactly the same words. This is very well briefed out, and it's very well researched. The whole thing is incredibly well put together. And the New Yorker article, if you go through it, and we are going through it in depth, actually gives some more of the game away than the entire Transition Integrity Project's playbook does, because what it does is it goes into the scenarios that were being played out as John Podesta played Joe Biden, as Bill Kristol played President Trump in these scenarios. And what it also does is it refers you back. Now, the audience will be well aware by this point of I go through everything with the highlighter and all that. It gives you who their professors are. Now, remember why professors are important. Professors are more important to this, and they will lean on the experts even heavier, Steve, than they did during the impeachment process. Remember, that day, they put Pamela Karlan and all those guys up in front of Congress and said, we're going to get the expertise of constitutional law experts, and they put them up in front of the committee, and they had an entire week's news cycle dedicated to hold this thing. This is exactly what's going to happen between November the 3rd and January the 20th, and it is no surprise. This audience will know we covered this over a month ago. I realize a lot of people are now waking up to it. We were covering this over a month ago here on this show, And we talked about that 1876 election. That's the opening line in The Hill. That's the opening line in The New Yorker. They want to tell you, and they are dead set on carnage and destruction of the political norms, the election night, the way people vote, and why, Steve? Because it is fundamentally the only way they know they can come out the back of this election is to challenge and dispute the results because of the mail-in vote.
Look, you've got in there, I know we only got a minute or so left. We're going to have Pasquale on here, but just to give a note of breaking news, in the report you brought out about the street fighting element of it. I mean, they make a big deal about that. She makes a big deal about that in the Georgetown Professor in her op-ed pieces. The Daily Beast is just reporting right now that the left is secretly preps for MAGA violence after Election Day. Well, I haven't really seen a lot of MAGA violence, right? What I've seen is just out of control violence of the
Steve, just before we go to break, you're absolutely right. This whole report, read the New Yorker article. It's called "What Happens If Donald Trump Fights the Election Results." It talks about 4 million people out in the streets for Joe Biden, not for MAGA. No MAGA violence. And in the same breath, it talks about how they're worried about Trump supporters conducting violence. It also says the Democrats investigate Trump. Political persecution in their own document. We'll be right back.
This is the kind of card that has America talking. With it, people with Medicare are getting all-in-one coverage for their doctor visits, hospital care, prescription drugs, and more. This kind of insurance, called Medicare Part C, may also cover dental care, eyeglasses, hearing aids, fitness programs, vitamins, even healthy meals and rides to the doctor. With this kind of coverage, you do not need a Medicare supplement insurance plan. You will access your benefits through your Medicare Part C plan for one low and oftentimes $0 monthly plan premium. You deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits. Call now for free information that may help you get more coverage for less money. There is no obligation to enroll. Whether for yourself or someone you love, call the number on the screen now. Call now.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress topper, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, only $29.99 with your promo code. With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Do you have any idea how your mattress affects your body and how well you sleep? Is it too hard or too soft, causing you to wake up with sore shoulders, back, or hips? Are you uncomfortable because you're too hot or too cold? Now you can get the total body support you need and the better sleep you want with the new MyPillow mattress topper.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. When I invented my new MyPillow mattress topper, I made it to have everything you'd ever want in a topper. My mattress topper helps give you the support you need, helps relieve your pressure points, and regulates your body temperature for you as an individual. It comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry the cover. It's made in the USA, and I back it with my 60-day money-back guarantee.
My Pillow Topper delivers on its promise to give me a better night's sleep.
Call now to get your very own MyPillow mattress topper. Use the promo code and Mike will give you 30% off and 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free. Order now.
I personally guarantee it's going to change your bed into the most comfortable bed you'll ever own.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
China. I've spent a lot of time, apparently I was told by
the folks of state, I've spent more time in private meetings with Xi Jinping than any world leader. I have 25 hours of private dinners with him, just he and I, and one interpreter.
Just he and I and one interpreter. Steve, I gotta completely agree with you. Is why we're not hearing that every single day.
Yeah, you FOIA'd this, Raheem, but we got to be hammering, the campaign ought to be hammering this every day. Where are the State Department summaries? Where's the précis of these 25 hours? We need to know it. This is the central issue of this campaign of the Chinese Communist Party. It's the relationship of the Chinese Communist Party to the rest of the world. President Trump's confronted it. President Trump said yesterday, you vote for Biden, he's owned by China, okay? That's not subtle. That's smash mouth. Now they got to back it up with smash mouth actions. Where are the tapes, or where are the notes from the interpreter? We want to see the raw thing. The State Department's got it. You said it was a private conversation. Remember, it was in private, but he was vice president of the United States. This was official delegation. This is when he was there with a pivot to Asia. This was about cybersecurity, cyber intrusions in the South China Sea. We need to have those, and we need to have them now. The American people got to read them, got to understand it, got to ask questions. The media should be all over Joe Biden about where these things are. This is outrageous. But you're seeing a lot of outrage. Listen, back to the Project Raheem, what happened in the Atlantic the other day, what's happened in the Daily Beast with Sam Stein. Sam Stein's a really good reporter. Now, Sam is a super progressive, but a good reporter. You got the Daily Beast story coming out saying, oh, it's MAGA violence they're worried about. Right? Although they talk about street fighting in their documents, MAGA violence they're worried about. They're trying to socialize that. Then the Atlantic piece was not a random piece. That was out there to try to put, doubts in the military's mind. And it's anonymous sources. And Raheem, what was his excuse today for why he went to anonymous sources? And would that hold up in any newsroom in the country?
Right. The author of the Atlantic article and the editor of the Atlantic has said this morning that he feared the sources feared the mob response, the Twitter mob response, and that's why they didn't want to go on the record. Now, we're always told about how brave these people are to give their quotes, but they're not brave enough apparently to go on the record, not brave enough to stand on their own names. And also about all of that, Steve, is that it doesn't stack up. Because you think of just how many people not just endure the mob in physical form here in Washington, D.C., and on the streets of Chicago, and the streets of Portland, on the streets of Kenosha, the physical mob, day in and day out, in their ordinary lives, ordinary people, and these are supposed to be our brave national security officials we're talking about who don't want to go on the record on their names, but also when you consider this excuse that these sources, these anonymous sources, didn't want to go on the record because they feared the Twitter mob, you think about what happens to conservatives, conservative influencers, conservative blue check marks, ordinary conservatives on social media every single day. They're deplatformed, they're demonetized, their entire livelihoods are put at threat. And these people, he says, these anonymous sources didn't want to go on the record. There's only one of two options here. Number one, they don't exist and they're totally fake. They are not real people and they are not real sources. And I suspect that that is probably the case. Or number two, that these people, as Jack Maxey would say, are chicken-chested cowards who are afraid to put their own names out there despite leeching off the taxpayer teat for all of their adult lives and careers. It's one of those two options, Steve.
Yeah, let's bring in now. I tell you what, Raheem, we got 133 days in a wake up till Inauguration Day when President Trump is going to be inaugurated as President of the United States. I want to bring in now Ed Pasquale from Florida, one of the top election lawyers. Ed, first off, give our audience a sense. You were riding shotgun with us in 2016. Florida's the key state. Politico's got the story about the 8 battleground states. They're all important, but Florida is the most important. What is your assessment? What's the current status of the Trump campaign down there, and particularly where do we stand of pulling this off on Election Day?
Well, as you're right, Steve. The first thing is that President Trump cannot get reelected if Florida doesn't go his way. The math of the Electoral College says so. But where we are, good news is that we've seen polls get tighter. As much as we don't believe the polls, the trending of the polls seems to be moving toward Donald Trump's way. And then the second piece is we're starting to see a number, at least relatively large number of African Americans reconsider Donald Trump as their candidate. So you're looking at numbers that are unprecedented in the 20s in Florida, 20% plus. And to be blunt about it, in 2018 when Ron DeSantis won, he won by 33,000 votes. And he took 19% of African-American women, and that ended up being the decisive piece. And you heard that in the convention about school choice. That was the issue back in 2018, and there is still some street cred around pushing that issue because that's where African-American parents want to have the power to choose educational choice for their kids.
Yeah, no, listen, particularly black males on economic nationalism. This are working class, black males. They are, I think, hardcore economic nationalists, right? They're looking for those factories to come back from China. They're looking to stop, I think, or limit illegal immigration. They understand that's what's flooding the zone and making so tough to get wages up. So I think there's a natural audience. I've said that from the absolute beginning. And Zogby, I think, is up on Newsmax. One of our distribution partners has got a Zogby poll up. The Newsmax Zogby poll talks about this exact thing, particularly with African Americans. So it's going to be extraordinary. How's the energy down there? Do you feel the get out the vote? Remember, we won in 2016 with really people going to the barricades and going door to door, phone banks. Are you seeing that energy right now, Ed?
Yeah, we're seeing the energy, and here's what we are seeing. You're going to still need a large turnout from the Panhandle and some of the more conservative areas of Florida. But, Steve, I'll tell you some good news in that, unlike in the 2016, Hispanics, particularly those Cuban Americans, who were actually in play for a little while during the run-up to the last election, presidential election, are solidly behind Donald Trump here. The report is that the Hispanic, particularly Cuban Americans, have really rallied for the president and against socialism.
Talk to us about, Raheem and the team at National Pulse and Revolver and others, along with War Room, has been getting into this transition integrity project, this ability, or really this movement on the left to basically steal the election post-election day. You were around in 2000. You were one of the top, vote fraud lawyers around. Where do we stand with this right now in the state of Florida? Are the lawyers ready? Or do we have enough election officials? Do we have poll watchers? Is the Trump campaign and the Republican Party, are we ready to take it on head on in Florida?
I don't think we're ready yet, but we're getting ready. But, Steve, I want to give your listeners some context of this. In 2000, in the run-up of 2000 election, where, frankly, I think that the election would have been stolen but for the fact that Republicans pushed back hard and would not let that happen in Florida. And so the difference between 2000 and 2020 is really stark. Think about 2000. You had George W. Bush against Al Gore. Very similar candidates. Remember, Al Gore at the time was coming out of that Bill Clinton centrist Democratic mold. And so the excitement wasn't really from the left. It was from the center of their party. And so they competed against George W. And the difference between those two candidates is far different than the stark difference between the alternatives that we have in front of us today between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who is effectively a shell of himself, and the left side of that Democratic Party is driving their agenda. And so in this case, you have a 2000 election with similar candidates, and basically people did come out and protest in 2000 during the recounts in Florida. But now you already have people taking to the streets essentially with a leftist anarchist viewpoint, not necessarily for their candidate, but for the destruction of the system itself, which is far different than what we experienced in 2000. Very concerning.
Well, how big a deal? Back in 2000, we had Kathleen Harris was the Secretary of State. She was a Republican. Is there a Democrat? Hasn't Soros really worked and gotten a lot of these secretaries of states? I think in Arizona and Florida are Democrats. Is that going to be what kind of? Or is the Secretary of State the person that certifies the votes, or is it the Republican governor?
No, it's essentially the Secretary of State in our state is somebody who's appointed by the governor. So I don't see that as the biggest issue here. What I see is local supervisor of elections. Remember, Florida, as an example, is 67 counties with separate supervisor of elections that run and process and administer the elections. So we have some good news in Florida, in South Florida, I would suggest to you, that in Broward and Palm Beach, where most of the problems were in 2000, and obviously we've had some other problems leading up to 2020, you have at least the potential of two supervisors of elections who are far more competent than their predecessors. Pete Antonacci was appointed after Brenda Snipes resigned but was appointed by Ron DeSantis. And he's very competent, did a good job during the primary. And Wendy Link up in Palm Beach is a well-known person up there of somewhat, true integrity. And so we're hoping that the two of them will provide a competent administration of this election. But let me share with you that right now they're anticipating between Broward and Palm Beach about 800,000 mail-in ballots to go out per request. That's about a 50% increase across those two counties. And so you're looking at either a late night election night or into the next day before you're going to have any substantive result.
When are they actually start counting mail-in ballots in Florida?
Well, they open the envelopes and check the actual signatures first, and that can be done prior to Election Day, but they do not tabulate the ballots. They separate the ballot from the envelope once they're deemed eligible or they've met the person mailing it in. So I'll give you an example. You request a ballot in Florida, you're sent a ballot. As long as you send your request in prior to October 1st, you'll get a ballot. Then you vote your ballot, you put it in an envelope where you sign it, and then you put it in the outside envelope and send it back in. When it comes into the supervisor's office, they separate the envelope from this internal envelope. The internal envelope has your signature. You're checking to see if the person complied with all those requirements. If they did, then the ballot is separated from the group and put into its precinct, and then is counted the moment the polls close on election night. So those are the first ballots that are started to be counted. The problem is that where you get late returns, so up till 7 o'clock on election day, you can return your ballot, your absentee ballot, to the election supervisor. If 50,000 of them come in at 6:30, that's going to overwhelm the system, and you're not going to get those counted right away.
How come we got just about a minute left? How can people get more access to your Twitter, et cetera? We're going to have you back on the show, give more details later this week. But how can people get access to you? They can
either email me or on Twitter, EDPOZZ. That's my Twitter handle, and then they can do that. But we're in the process now of putting a team together, Steve. So any lawyers in Florida who want to be part of what I would say election protection, please contact the Trump campaign.
Raheem?
We've got to go to a break now, but it's incredibly important. Ed, thank you so much for letting us know that. I know there's a lot of people out there right now who are looking at doing their job as citizens, and people who are in the legal sector who are looking at getting involved in this. There can be no team too big. Get involved. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic in just a second.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something. If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it. Absolutely. Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, only $29.99 with your promo code. With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, welcome back to the War Room. Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam here on Capitol Hill. Over to Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah, we're very honored today to have the writer-director, one of the biggest pieces of talent, I think, in the Trump movement, the conservative movement, and just a fabulous filmmaker, writer-director on Riding the Dragon that we had this weekend that people's heads are still blowing up about the Biden's financial relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. He also was the director of, or the writer in the DP on Clinton Cash, which was monumental and had a big impact in 2016. He's got a new film, another new film out today, Safeguard, an Electoral College story. Matthew, with everything that's going on right now in the heat of combat, why should people go up on Amazon today? Why should they watch Safeguard? What's the story about it, and why is it important in this moment in history?
Well, look, the Electoral College is not very well understood by people. The Electoral College is going to determine this election that's coming up, and the Electoral College is under assault right now. There are movements right now to do away with the Electoral College without people realizing it. And we felt it was important to educate people, to show how it protects minorities, to show how it's integrated into everybody's life. And so, what's the better way to do that than a film? So that's why you should watch it, because there's a real chance that this system could be gone by 2024.
When you say safeguard, what do you mean safeguard? People think the Electoral College, you're hearing all this argument today that it's from America's racist past, it's systemically racist. So what do you mean safeguard? What's it safeguarding?
Well, look, when the founders created our system, and wrote the Constitution, they built all these checks and balances in. And one of the really important checks and balances is the Electoral College. It safeguards your rights as an individual. Because, look, at the end of the day, we are a republic. And so you have to pick pure democracy or you have to pick individual rights. And the Electoral College takes that authority for electing the executive and pushes it into the states. So you have parts of democracy within the state, and then within the federal government, that's the relationship that the Electoral College protects. So it protects your individual rights. And if you remove it, well, then you're at the mercy of the mob.
Who's in the film?
Well, we have Trent English, we have Steve Forbes, Joe Pinion. There's a number of great people in the film. that Alan Gilzo talks about, kind of the history of it and how it relates to things like why we have two parties. It breaks down how it protects us from, say, extremist candidates. It explains why a candidate has to go to all of the states as opposed to going to only certain geographical areas. And really the big thing of the film, and really the reason the Electoral College exists, is to protect minorities of all stripes, whether you're a racial minority, an economic minority, a sexual minority. It protects minority rights. That is the foundation of why the Electoral College exists, and that's why we made this film, to show that.
Why did it take you making this film to get that argument out there? You almost never hear this when you see the left beating down the Electoral College, is saying it throws the system out to all nothing but right-wingers and protect white privilege. Why do you never hear this argument? Why did it take this film, Safeguard, an Electoral College story, to come out today on Amazon? Why have people not been making this consistently in the past and loudly?
Well, the system's been around for so long. It's clearly been around since the beginning of the country. And so people don't really think about it. And, it only is used every couple of years, every 4 years. And so in the last, couple of years, we've had only 5 elections in history where the popular vote has not matched the Electoral College victory, right? And 2 of them have happened in the last 20 years with Bush and Trump in 2016. So what this has motivated in the left is we need to destroy this system. Because it doesn't elect the candidates we want. But there is a reason why these things don't match up sometimes, and they're actually beneficial for the whole country. And so, again, they would rather toss out the whole system through say, an interstate compact than sit there and address why this system is here and how it protects, again, smaller states, how it protects minorities. I mean, look, you take 130 some odd million votes in 2016, only 35 million of them are minorities. If you had a national popular vote with one person, one vote across the country, you need 0 black people to win an election. You could win with only white people. How is that in any way not some kind of how is that? How does that bring people into the electoral process? Whereas if you do it state by state with the Electoral College, the minority vote becomes the tipping point. They have a voice. Right? That's what the Electoral College does. It gives minorities a voice state to state, and it gives states their own voice within the federal government.
Okay, I want to go real quickly. And by the way, I'm reminded by our production staff, Dan Floyd was the writer on Clinton Cash. I want to make sure he gets. I want to make sure the guilds are not. I want to make sure the guilds are not chasing me this afternoon for his residuals. I want to go to Riding the Dragon over the weekend. Mm-hmm. Peter Schweitzer, the team at Blaze TV, you were the director of that. Why did it take you guys to really go into depth in the story? Why is the media not on this? New York Times does a 7,000 word piece on Joe Biden over the weekend about his journey of becoming more hawkish on China. Not one mention of Hunter Biden or their financial relationship. So why do you think that's? Why does it take you and Schweitzer to do this?
Well, look, I mean, everybody wants to be friends with China. Everybody wants the good graces of China. I think that, look, you have to ask this. If China's going to give Hunter Biden $1.5 billion to start a company based on the relationships while Joe Biden is vice president, if Joe Biden becomes president, they're going to come asking for things. I mean, that's the thing. He owes them. And so, everybody wants to get in a position and have the next president position them in a place to work with China. So, of course, they're not going to uncover these things. And there's a lot of deals. There's a lot of deals that have been made. We highlight them throughout the film. And you're never going to hear anything from any of these media or any of these companies because they want to work with China. And they don't care if China is bad on human rights. They don't care about any of these things. It's all about money. And as we say in the movie, and as we said in Clinton Cash as well, follow the money.
Okay, real quickly, how do people get access to Riding the Dragon? How do they get access to Safeguard? How do they get access to your work?
Okay, you can find Safeguard on Amazon. Right now, it's Safeguard, an Electoral College story. You can find Riding the Dragon on Blaze TV. It is also on YouTube for free. And you can just search for Riding the Dragon, and you can watch it right now. It's also broken up into 6 parts, so you can just look at individual pieces. And it's available for everybody right now.
Matthew, you're an extraordinary talent. Thanks for joining us today. The films have been just absolutely amazing, and look forward to your work in the future.
Thank you for having me.
Raheem,
we got a break here, Steve.
Yeah, you're going to be covering this in National.
Yeah, we will be. We will absolutely be covering it in the National Post. We'll also blast out the link to the movies to the audience. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new Micro Touch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.